welcome to the Good Girls Get Rich podcast. I'm your host, Karen Yankovich, and today's episode is something that is near and dear to my heart. And that really, for me, it really is like at this stage of your life, you do not need to beg for access or perform for approval or work your way up like it's 1997, right? You need strategic proximity in a limited, micro-targeted way. And LinkedIn is the room where those discussions are already being made, right? Where those decisions are already being made, where those discussions are already happening. So we're going to talk a little bit about this because I believe at this stage in your career, you're not trying to meet more people. Like you're trying to meet the right people, right? And be taken seriously when you do. And most of the midlife women that I meet are not job hunting, they're visibility hunting. And that doesn't mean that doesn't lead to jobs, right? But when you position yourself as if you're worthy, as if you're peers with the most influential people in your industry, and you build relationships from that premise, the jobs and the opportunities happen. So whether it's seats on boards of directors or media opportunities or speaking opportunities, they're not hidden opportunities, they're relationship driven, right? So the gap there isn't experience, the gap isn't ageism, the gap isn't, more certifications, it's access. It's access to the people making those decisions. And LinkedIn is already where those gatekeepers are looking. Even if you think they're not, even if you don't see them looking, it absolutely is where they're looking. And what the best part about all of this is it's like not hustle energy, right? It's like kind of quiet power. Like, who do I need to know? And this is the stuff I have been doing my whole life before social media. Like if you've heard me interviewed on podcasts and people talk about like what brought me to doing what I do now, like I've always known, like even when social media wasn't a thing, to land a contract, the question I was always asking myself is, who do I need to know? What rooms do I need to be in? Right? How do I build my own network from that premise? And that's what we're talking about now. So what if your next opportunity isn't unlocked by your additional credentials or any more certifications, but by who already recognizes your name, right? Like, what if it's not who you know, but who knows you? Right. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about some myths that I think are keeping women primarily out of these opportunities. And I want more women to be making more money. I want there to be more wealthy women in the world. Our voices are being stifled all over the world right now, and we need our voices to be out there. So we have to dismantle these invisible rules that we were taught. Right. And myth number one, I need to be invited. Now, if you know anything about human design, I am a projector, which means I need to wait to be invited. And I linked to it in the show notes. I did an interview with Candy Barone, who's a human design expert, talking about exactly that. Like, all right, how do I do this? How do I build a business teaching women how to build relationships? I have to wait to be invited. Right. But here's the thing. I want to just reframe this a little bit for you. We don't need to wait for permission. We need to assume relevance. That's what men are doing, right? They're assuming relevance, and we're waiting to be invited, and we're waiting for permission, right? So whether it's board seats or media opportunities or speaking invitations, they often go to the most visible, not the most qualified. I know you know that. I know you've seen people and opportunities that you're like, why is it them and not me? Like, I am more qualified for that opportunity, right? So let's not wait to be invited, but create an energy of magnetism, right? And go after it, okay? And go after it. Myth number two, networking means asking for favors. I mean, come on. I mean, I know if you've ever been to like a Chamber of Commerce event, I know you've met that. I'm going to say that guy because I'm just going to bash on. This isn't man bashing. I don't care. I don't really care what your body parts are. I just think women need to be in more rooms, right? But you've met that person, met that person that immediately walks up to you and says, hey, I sell insurance. Do you need insurance? Like, hey, I sell chickens. Do you need insurance? Like, I remember there's a friend of mine who, her husband was always in some kind of sales, and he, like, you would avoid him when you saw him because you're like, oh my God, he's going to make me buy chickens from him now. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't want to be that person, right? It's not asking for favors. High level networking is not transactional. It's about familiarity. It's about credibility, and it's about building actual relationships, and truly making introductions for people. It is a huge part of the success of my business. Making introductions is a huge part of the success of my business. Now, how does that help me? I don't know. I made an introduction recently. I made a couple of high-level introductions recently to somebody that I met. And, she posted on LinkedIn with all these links to people that have helped her this week. And my name was in there, which got my name in front of a lot of people, right? Is it a direct path to a sale? No, but this is how you do it, right? This is how you do this magnetic marketing, this magnetic networking, and build your network full of the people, full of the rooms you need to be in, right? Myth number 3, LinkedIn is just for job seekers. Let's reframe that a little bit and say LinkedIn is, what if we refer to it as like a talent discovery engine, right? Journalists, board recruiters, event organizers, podcast hosts, right? If you are not positioned for those opportunities, you're invisible. You're invisible no matter how accomplished you are. No matter how accomplished you are. So where might you be underestimating how powerful your existing experience actually is? All right, I'm going to repeat those 3 myths really quick. I need to be invited. And networking means asking for favors, and LinkedIn is for job seekers. Myth, myth, myth. We've just dispelled all of them. So let's talk a little bit about what do you want to do? Because this here is like the heart of this episode, right? Like this is like the playbook to be in those high-level rooms. First and foremost, you need to position yourself. That comes with your LinkedIn profile, right? Position first, connect second, because you want people to be like, whoa, wait a minute, I really want to know her, right? So does your headline reflect where you're going, or does it reflect where you've been, right? A LinkedIn profile with resume energy is all about who you used to be, where you've been. And part of that's important on LinkedIn, right? But the energy we want is to position you for where you want to be, right? And who you are becoming. Does your profile signal board level thinking, thought leadership, media ready expertise? If you are quoted in the media or interviewed on podcasts, are you sharing that stuff so people know, oh, wow, she's somebody that maybe I want to interview because other people interview her, right? So make sure you're seeing those signals in your LinkedIn profile. So if you have been on any boards of directors and you want more, make sure you're sharing that on there, and that you've been a board advisor or you've been in governance or financial oversight, right? These are powerful words that position you as worthy of people's time and investment, right? Keynote speaker on whatever topic, right? About whatever outcome that you create. Make sure you're sharing that on your LinkedIn profile, maybe in your headline. Expert source on what is your topic, right? People don't open doors for potential. They open doors for clarity. They need to know what you do so they know what door to open for you, right? So make sure when you're looking at your LinkedIn that you're positioning, that you're seeing all of that with an outsider's eye. And if you share this with your mastermind, look at each other's profiles. Come join my visibility salon at visibilitysalon.com. You can get in for free for a week, and we'll look at it for you, right? But it's hard to kind of see yourself from that perspective, right? But make sure your positioning is solid before you move on to the outreach. And then let's talk about that outreach. Warm outreach beats cold pitching every single time. Engage with people, comment on their content, add value publicly, and then connect privately, if at all possible, right? If at all possible. So like if you're, and you guys might have heard me talk about examples. I have so many examples like this of clients of mine or people that are in our visibility salon where they've engaged with a journalist's content, right? And shared their articles, whatever journalists they want to build relationships with. That's what we're talking about here, right? People that we want to be in the room with. Share their content first. Journalists are prolific. Find something that resonates with you and what you think will resonate with your audience and share it and tag the journalist, right? That is so much more powerful than a pitch email, especially if you want to get interviewed on a podcast. So much more powerful than a pitch email, right? Then connect with them and say, hey, I don't know if you saw it, but I loved the article that you wrote, or I listened to that episode you did with Karen Yankovich and, love this, this, and this. And I shared it everywhere. I'm saying everybody needs to hear this. Like, that's how you get booked, right? Not just cold pitches all over the place. Think about, like, if you're looking to get more speaking engagements, Think about a conference that you want to be speaking at next year and engage with that conference this year, right? Engage with it. Maybe you went to the conference, or maybe you saw some YouTube videos from the conference, or maybe you had a virtual ticket to a conference. Talk about the speakers, talk about the content that you learned at this conference. Tag the speakers, tag the event organizers. If there's an event hashtag, use the event hashtag. Make sure, remember, it's not who you know, it's who knows you, right? Make sure the event organizers know you, because they're going to notice that consistent insight, not your one-off messages. Right. And again, we're talking, I've mentioned a few times, if you want to be, hired on a board of directors, look, be connecting and building relationships and have conversations with people that already sound like peers, right? Again, position yourself as if you're peers with these people that are the most influential in your industry. Jump into these conversations, right? This connection mindset is take it away from these 100 cold connection requests that I know you're getting, right? I'm getting them. We all get them. Don't be that person. Be the person that says, hey, I saw you spoke at this conference. I didn't get there this year, but I saw some highlights on a YouTube video, or I saw somebody posted this comment about it, and I loved this and that. I'm curious about more. Do you have the whole YouTube video? I'd love to see the whole thing, right? Curiosity over your credentials beats it every time. Your profile is going to speak to your credentials, right? Don't go in there and say, hey, I do all this. Like if you walk into a networking event and you're like, hey, I'm Karen Yankovich. I have hundreds of thousands of social media followers. Like, who wants to meet that person, right? But if I say, hey, I'm Karen Yankovich, I saw you did this. I'd love to learn more about that. Let them find out later when I connect them on LinkedIn how much credibility I actually have, right? And again, relevance over resume. Nobody really cares about your resume. There are so many things that I have done in my career that you can't even find in my LinkedIn profile because they're so not relevant to what I'm doing now, right? So stop thinking about this as a resume and start thinking about positioning yourself and as somebody that has a point of view that's relevant to the kinds of opportunities you want to land. Okay, you want to land. For example, you could talk, like let's say you want to be interviewed on a podcast, right? And you hear an interview with Mary and Susie, and you jump into the conversation on social media and say, I just listened to this podcast, or better yet, you share the podcast episode and you tag Mary and Susie, and you're like, you guys talked about this and this, but you know what I love to talk about on this topic is this, and I'd love to hear your perspective on that. Maybe they'll jump into the conversation. Maybe they'll invite you to speak on their show, right? You never know, right? You never know. Relevance over resume. And then familiarity over flattery. I love it when people say, Karen, I love you, blah, 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 blah. That's great. I love that. But at the end of the day, it's flattery. And flattery doesn't pay my bills. Flattery doesn't help me, do the things I need to do in my business. It doesn't help me pay my team. It doesn't do any of that stuff. But building relationships, building familiarity with the kinds of people that can change, that will help me land the kinds of contracts that can grow my business. That's what I want to do, right? That's more important to me. I don't really need you to feed my ego. I like to feed my bank account, right? And how I feed my bank account is building relationships. And I build relationships on a human to human basis. So build that familiarity, right? Build that familiarity. So think about some rooms that you intentionally want to enter on LinkedIn. Okay, so again, if corporate is what you're looking for, or board spots are what you're looking for, or a new job is what you're looking for, highlight fiduciary thinking, nonprofit board work, governance, whatever you're doing around those things. Follow the board members and the board recruiters and their current board of directors. Follow them, connect with them, build relationships with them, familiarity, right? Engage where they already are. Okay, engage where they already are. If you're looking to get more media, I promise you, journalists are scanning LinkedIn way more than they're Googling. Because Google is like, listen, we all Google everything, right? But it's like the cesspool, everything comes up. LinkedIn is where they're going to find out more about you. Oh, that's where they're going to find the people that they can bring into their events, right? Your content, they're going to be looking at your content. They're going to be reading your content, right? And you don't have to post every day, right? You just need to, like everything you post, whenever you post a LinkedIn newsletter, it just becomes part of your profile. All of these things get added into your profile. So when a journalist is Googling, like searching for something on LinkedIn, your profile is going to come up because you talk about that topic a lot, right? So you're found by your visibility. You're found by your keywords that you're using strategically through your profile, and you're found by your presence. You're found by your presence. You're found by the fact that you're in these conversations. You're in these rooms. And again, build relationships over pitching people. Okay. And then talking a little bit about stages. Speakers are not found by talent alone. They're found by, again, I'll use those same things again, visibility, keywords, presence. These are the things that people look for when they're bringing a speaker on. So if your profile doesn't say speaker, organizers won't assume it. I remember back in 2020 when everything was going virtual, I remember I was all over hey, if you're a speaker, add the word virtual all into your profile because people are looking for virtual speakers right now, right? Maybe not so much anymore, but hey, if you still want to be a virtual speaker, use that word, right? Because you want people to know what you're available for. You want to make it so stinking easy for people to know what you stand for. And by the way, we've talked about this a lot on this show. Not only are you letting the rest of the world know that, you're letting LinkedIn know this, right? So LinkedIn is now consistently knowing what you're talking about, what you're available for, and LinkedIn's algorithm will bring more people to you, right? So I want you to think a little bit to yourself, right? What room do you have the right to be in, but you haven't claimed it yet? You haven't claimed it yet. I can think of an opportunity. I have a client, somebody that's part of our visibility salon, and she was speaking at this conference, and the conference happened to have multiple conferences over the year across the country. And one of them happens to be in New York, and I live right outside of New York City. So I connected with the conference organizer. I mean, anybody could have done that. I should know me from a hole in the wall, but I said, I've heard a lot about this conference and I see you're running the conference, good for you, blah, blah, blah. I heard you do a great job. And I connected with her, and that's it. And then when I saw that they were looking for speakers in New York, I DM'd her. And I said, hey, I don't know if you had I didn't even see a speaker application or anything, but I'm right outside of New York City. And I know they pay their speakers, but I wanted to just get a foot in the door, right? So I was like, it's really easy for me. If you have a space for me, if you've got this, I'd love to be a part of your event. And she's like, oh, we've got all our speakers booked, but I'll keep you in mind, blah, blah, blah. And the next day she messaged me and said, you know what? I think I could put you on a panel. That was it. That's all I had to do, right? You could do that. This wasn't anything, again, my LinkedIn presence spoke for I didn't have to tell her all that stuff. My profile did the speaking for me. And this is how you can get that speaking engagement, right? If you're looking for spots on boards of directors, there's a spot on LinkedIn that says actively looking for. Say you're actively looking for a spot on the board of directors. I had that on, I might still have it on my profile. I had that on my profile at one point, and I got a couple of people that did outreach for me on that. Nothing that really spoke to me, but it was, be really focused on what you're looking for, because the opportunities will come to you. Because here's the deal. These opportunities don't always arrive loudly. The speaking opportunity I got at this huge conference wasn't because I was one of many in the speaker applications with 60 billion people. I quietly went into her DMs and said, what do you think? Right? They arrived. So that opportunity didn't arrive loudly. It arrived because she already knew who I was, right? I didn't connect with her on Tuesday and pitch her on Wednesday. I am building these relationships all the freaking time. So I just want you to think about this almost from an identity standpoint. Networking at this level requires that you see yourself a little bit differently, because you're not trying to get in with the cool crowd. You are the cool crowd, right? You're joining conversations you already belong in. So you're not networking your way into these opportunities. You're positioning yourself and building relationships so these rooms and these opportunities recognize you. Okay, so I'm going to say this again, because at this moment in time, it can't be said enough. Women's voices need to be heard. We need to be proactively putting our voices out there. At this moment in time, this visibility is the act of leadership. It is not self-promotion. It is an act of leadership. Your voice is needed. And if you're not doing this, you are not showing up as a leader in this space in the world, right? So think, if that's true, right? If you can connect to that, how differently would you show up? How do you shift your energy around all of this? The beautiful thing about all of this is, especially about LinkedIn, which is why I love it. It's like networking for lazy people. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do like one thing intentionally this week. Where does it matter? Like where does it? What rooms do you want to be in? Make a comment or a couple of comments around there. Update a line or two of positioning in your profile. Connect with one person that maybe you know from somewhere, maybe you heard them speak at a conference, maybe you saw somebody else interview them, who already shapes the decisions that you want to be a part of. We have recreated the Visibility Salon in 2026 to our She's Linked Up program, which is now a part of this Visibility Salon. So you can get the entire training for the She's Linked Up program, which was many thousands of dollars for very little money in the Visibility Salon. Like I said, you can get it in a week for free. We created it because I want there to be more women that have more money. And I know we need to be having these conversations with each other. We need to be lifting each other up. And I know that the women that are going to be shaping our future are not louder. They're clearer. They're clearer. And they've learned how to be seen on purpose. Okay, so check us out at visibilitysalon.com. We'd love to have you there, and make those couple changes this week. Just a couple little steps. And I'll be back here next week with more. See you then.